and the private sectors. Today, we're announcing that 6 new cities will receive grants to create innovation teams. The teams will focus on an area that became even more critical during the pandemic: the digital transformation of city services, operations, and how government interacts with its residents. The 6 mayors will be working with and running some of the most data-driven and digitally integrated cities in the world, and they're all committed to continuing to raise the bar. Each has a proven track record of seizing digital opportunities in ways that are innovative, that yield results on important issues, that are accessible to everyone, and that make cities more inclusive and equitable. Just to give a few examples, last year, Washington, D.C. reduced waiting times for filing unemployment insurance claims by 86% during the height of the pandemic. San Francisco created an online system to find and apply for subsidized housing. Amsterdam used mobile gaming to encourage residents to use greener transportation. Reykjavik created a platform that allows residents and government to cooperatively allocate funds for neighborhood projects. Bogota created a centralized control board to monitor pandemic data. And Mexico City developed an automated screening tool to slow the spread of COVID and prioritize treatment. This new investment can help all of these cities aim even higher to meet the needs of their communities. And importantly, it can help them document and share lessons with other cities so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. We're very glad to have the mayors of all 6 cities with us here today, and we're looking forward to seeing what the future holds. And now, to introduce them and moderate a conversation, let me turn it over to the leader of our foundation's government innovation team, Jim Anderson. Jim, the Zoom is yours.
Thank you so much, Mike, and good morning to everyone. And thanks to the hundreds of city innovators and officials from across the Bloomberg Cities network that are joining us for this on the globe. The fact is, we're in such a unique time. The pandemic, which was a watershed moment for city innovation, has really shown both the urgency and the possibilities of digital transformation in ways that were previously unimaginable. Just look at how cities maintained essential services with upwards of 50, 60% of their civil servants working fully online, how they use data in new and powerful ways to engage the public, how they stood up digital services overnight in response to new needs. No one would have thought that was possible from local governments pre-pandemic, but it was. And now cities are positioned and eager to become bolder and more ambitious in harnessing the possibilities of digital to build more equitable, inclusive, and sustainable communities. That's so important because we know now more than ever, we can't afford to flatten the curve on bold public sector innovation. The needs remain too great. So here at Bloomberg, we are excited to partner with mayors to help them continue to lead the way forward. The digital revolution within the public sector is definitely underway. Momentum is growing, and mayors and other leaders are pushing on a door that is about to burst open. I think we will look back at this period as the moment that for local governments, they leapt forward into the future, embraced digital services, and did create completely new types of value for residents, entrepreneurs, small businesses, and others. But that will only happen with focused, consistent, values-driven mayoral leadership. When mayors raise their innovation ambition, when they develop the creative and analytical skills inside government that can bring rigor and intentionality to these efforts. That's why Bloomberg Philanthropy supports local governments and the people who lead cities. Mike Bloomberg has been the leading philanthropist investing in public sector innovation for a decade. That work began with our very first innovation team grants back in 2011. Today, we support a global network of innovation officers and teams, all focused on developing and delivering bold new solutions. The I-teams have been a huge part of that. That's because the more than 40 I-teams we've funded have proven what's possible when mayors bring together rigor, data, empathy, collaboration, and accountability into this work. So we're excited to partner with these new 6 cities in this flagship program. These cities are in every way already at the forefront, and we look forward to learning from them and helping them continue to raise their innovation ambition and show the world what's possible. Together, we're also taking our innovation program to somewhere new, to digital transformation, and to helping mayors build on the progress that's been made in recent years. So what better way to launch this than to hear directly from these mayors to talk a little bit about their programs. I'm so pleased to welcome Amsterdam Mayor Femke Halsema, Washington, D.C. Muriel Bowser, Mexico City Mayor Claudia Sheinbaum, San Francisco Mayor London Breed, and Reykjavik Mayor Dagur Eggertsson. Welcome, mayors. Bogota Mayor Claudia Lopez Hernandez is finishing up an event with her country's president and will join us very shortly. So why don't we first go over to Amsterdam, Mayor Halsema. Mayor, your city comes up on a short list of everyone's sort of cities that have been investing in digital and data, and with a really clear link in delivering public service that increase community well-being. At the same time, you're very focused on digital rights and privacy. Can you talk a little bit about how you're expanding what's possible while also protecting what's so important to your residents?
Well, let me start by saying that I'm so very thankful that our city can participate, and I would love to meet my colleagues in real life sometime and discuss the things at hand. As you asked, I think Amsterdam has a very long tradition or history of technological advancement. Over the centuries, Amsterdammers have been responsible for innovations, for instance, in medical sciences, and more recently in the digital age. More than 25 years ago, the social platform, the digitale stad, but I probably have to translate that, the digital city, was created here in Amsterdam. And the digital city was a place with all kinds of public facilities where every Amsterdammer could go. But since then, as you know, global developments have overtaken the idealism of the digital city with the way it started. Technology now in the hands, as you know, of a number of large commercial parties. And we have to come to grips with all vital processes in the society and have to protect them also. Economic and social transactions, as you know, are based on trust. And if that is lost in the transaction costs of huge companies, the consequences are enormous. Trust in technology, as we all can see, is declining. And these are deeply undermining in democratic societies, and citizens seem to have no choice due to monopolistic providers. And that interferes for us with establishing Amsterdam's core values, free trade and open democratic environments. And at the moment, I cannot guarantee all digital city rights citywide. And one of the reasons is that this requires cooperations of multi-levels of government, companies, NGOs, and citizens worldwide. Well, Amsterdam will celebrate its 750th birthday in 2025. So that's 4 years from now. And by that time, we hope, and I hope for, together with a lot of partners worldwide, to make sure that we've recreated a safe digital public space as a standard for all our citizens, so that every Amsterdammer can benefit from the possibility of digitization. That's a very difficult word for me as a Dutch woman, in a city in which our digital rights are protected. So this is what we aim for, and this is why we really are very happy to be part of this partnership and to have received your grant.
Thank you. Well, I know your team is exceptional and has been part of networking other cities around some of these same issues, working the city-to-city networks around digital access and privacy. So that's so important. Thank you. Now we're going to turn
thank
to,
you.
Yes. Now I'm going to turn to Washington Mayor Muriel Bowser. DC is open.
DC is definitely
Congrats
open.
on getting
Thank you.
there.
Thank you.
I know an extraordinary amount of hard work. So, Mayor Bowser, you have been laser focused on delivering excellent customer service to district residents, increasing the quality of public services so that residents feel empowered when they come into interaction with local government and the programs that you have to support them. So how do you see a deeper focus on data and digital innovation supercharging these efforts?
Well, I think we learned a lot in the last 15, 16 months during COVID. And I think that certainly it crushed our economy and we lost Washingtonians to the virus, but it also made us do things quickly. We modified our government operations overnight, sent our employees home with computers. And as you said, we're local government, so we're used to talking to our residents face to face and those services being in person. And our employees did an extraordinary job. And so now it's our task to figure out what worked in that modified government operations that we're going to keep. And the things that we'll bring back in person. So that's important. But I think our health response was an excellent model of how we can use data and use government interventions, monitor what those interventions do daily and adjust. And that's the promise of data in government. And I think that all of our emergency responses to COVID shows if we know what to monitor, what metrics to follow, how to turn up or turn down the interventions, and then measure the impact on policy or on outcomes that we expected, that's the model for government. And so as we're coming into this also with huge investments in housing, for example, huge investments in getting people trained and back to work. We have the same opportunity to look at our metrics, look at the government interventions, measure them, and adapt. And for all of us who are local government geeks, that is going to determine how we come back from COVID. So we have a couple of things moving right now that will allow us to do that. This investment will allow us to do that. We're going to transform an office that was our policy office that will now be our policy and innovation office. And their job will be to identify discrete programs where we can measure the government intervention, turn it up or turn it down, and see the progress that we're making.
Awesome. Worth noting that Washington, D.C. is a What Works City's gold certified city.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you. But I think it's really interesting the point that you raise around, we just got done with a year and a half, not done in every place I'm aware,
right,
where the data focused everyone on the urgency of the problem in a way that was so powerful.
Yes.
And I know, today you are talking about gun violence and a lot of other issues that require that same level of urgent attention. Absolutely. And the possibility of using data in new ways and different ways based on what we learned, I think is exciting.
And I think what we also learned is how we communicated. All of the mayors will I'm sure say this, but talking daily to our residents about what the numbers say, what the numbers mean. And if you will follow us with this intervention, we're going to report to you how it worked and stick with us on this. And so I think that's a model and a cadence that we need to adapt in other things. You mentioned that we are setting up the same emergency operations center for our gun violence interventions. And it's harder to come up with those metrics, and they move more slowly than the COVID interventions, but it gives us a model and a cadence to follow, because I am convinced that constant communication to our residents, they want a government that works well. They want us officials to be smart about what we're doing with our tax dollars. And we shouldn't lose that 15 months of talking to people about data and numbers and government interventions and asking them to do something. They're used to it. So let's capitalize on that.
That's great. I'm going to now bring in Mexico City Mayor Claudia Sheinbaum into the conversation. So, I was really amazed when I started learning about the deep investments that Mayor Sheinbaum has made in her couple of years in City Hall in digital innovation infrastructure. And perhaps it's no wonder. The mayor is an engineer, something else she has in common with Mike Bloomberg. And so I think probably takes a systems approach in the way she thinks about this stuff. But she's invested deeply in hiring a strong team of UX designers, a lot of data scientists. These people are focused on creating one of the most robust digital infrastructures of any city in the world. I think my first question to you is why were these investments so important to you? Let me start there.
Okay, do you hear me?
We hear you.
Okay, so I'm gonna read it since it is in English. So we've been very clear since day one about our conviction that technology is not just a tool for delivering more effective services to residents, but that's the key point. For us, technology and innovation means a guarantee to access and exercise of people's rights. So our government motto is innovation and rights. It's about how can we put digitalization, technology, and new solution to increase accountability, access to justice, education, health, and improve overall the lives of citizens. So Mexico City is the largest city in the country and one of the most populated cities in the world. As such, we face the challenge of extending coverage to everyone, particularly people in the most marginalized areas of the city who are not able to pay high market prices to Wi-Fi. Our promise since we came to government in 2019 is to guarantee people's rights in the case, the right to have access to digital services free of charge. We are implementing policies for extending infrastructure and technology systems useful to all city residents. So when we came to government, we create the Digital Agency for Public Innovation. By centralizing the digital agenda of the government, we have been able to adopt strategic agenda for innovation and universal digital services provision. So for example, we have right now 17,000 connection spots in all 16 delegations or alcaldías in the city. So we are the second city right now with more free Wi-Fi in all the world. And this was not with a lot of resources, economic resources, but mainly with designs. We have also developed simplification of administrative procedures through a digital unique identification ID called Llaves, Ciudad de Mexico. It creates an archive of personal documents and enables people to carry on multiple administrative procedures online. We have currently over 1.8 million users in the city. We have also what we call the app CDMX, the city app, which is an app of apps. So anyone can have access to more than 20 modules with information regarding security, mobility, public services, COVID-19, more than 2.5 million people currently use it. And we have created under this app a public platform for Mexico City taxis, that it's a public platform that competes with private ones. So the unified system for citizens' attention aims at improving the response time when people report problems in the provision of public services. And the other part that is important is the open data portal as an important addition of our quest for transparency. People have access to information and databases that have never been publicly available before. So data related to public servants, public programs, government procedures, budget allocation, etc. And also the geographical information system provides detailed data on legal status of houses, public and private buildings, physical structures, and many other things. So these are some of the things that we have developed. It have been developed by our own digital agency, public agency. We stopped contracting private license, and we have developed most of the software and applications by ourselves in the city with young people that come from the public universities.
Wow. Well, that is such an interesting point that you raise around developing in-house and building this capacity in-house versus contracting it out, which, you know, I think was the experience over the past couple of decades. I don't know if you would agree with this, Mayor, but I think, you know, the cities that came to the crisis with these internal investments, with this internal capacity, had a huge advantage on the rest in terms of being able to turn on this transformation by relying on internal resources and capacity. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, that's right. For example, for the COVID-19 crisis, we developed some inside tools such as an SMS, you know, where you can make your own how do you say it? Your own development of if you're sick or not sick of COVID-19, and then you can turn by that to a hospital or other facility. And we have by that the contact with every people that use this SMS. And that's one of the examples. The other one is that we develop a hospital information every day that people can have access to that. So many other things at the end, not just for COVID-19, but for many other services that for us at the end are not city services, but rights to people, which is, you know, the essence of what we think in the city.
Awesome. Very inspiring, thank you. Now I'd like to turn to our good friend, the San Francisco Mayor, London Breed. Great to see you, Mayor. San Francisco has a history of being one of the most innovative cities in its public policy and in building its internal innovation and data capabilities. In fact, on your watch, the city has established a 40-person digital services team, which is probably one of the largest of any US city. Going back to the point I made a second ago, how did those investments that you'd been making for a bunch of time pre-pandemic pay off during the pandemic? And what lessons have you learned over these past 18 months that you hope to bring forward with you?
Well, great to see you, Jim, and great to see the other mayors. Thank you so much for the question. San Francisco really has been at the center of innovation, and we've been focusing on bringing that same spirit to making our government work better for the people of this city. We've invested our city resources in making sure that technology and the government are really working hand in hand to support the residents of San Francisco. In 2016, we established the Digital Services Team, which works with all city departments to make government more efficient and accessible. Over the years, they've done great work on a number of big projects, like what was talked about earlier, bringing our affordable housing applications from this whole paper system and showing up at sites to online applications, which are so much more efficient. And during COVID, we really saw the value of their work. Back in March, when we made the move to shelter in place, everything was moving so fast. We had so much to do to protect people and to communicate the severity of what we were facing. But even with the shutdown, the government had to keep working and keep providing services to people. Our transit system needed to get workers back and forth to the hospitals. Essential businesses needed to operate and the necessary repairs and infrastructure investments needed to move forward. When we shut down, the digital service team, they kept working. They helped bring our permitting system process online so that we could keep projects moving forward even while the permit desks were closed because we had to shut down. They helped us get information out about our vaccine distribution, including building a notification system from scratch, better even than I think the state's system. These sorts of digital changes were essential during the pandemic lockdown. And as we reopen, digital services will help us make the city more efficient, more transparent, and more equitable. We also have Data SF, which is an amazing team of data analysts in our city government. At the beginning of the pandemic, there were so many questions from the public about what we were facing. I made a commitment from day one of this pandemic to give the public as much information as we had, even if we didn't have all the answers. That's because I knew that when there's uncertainty, that leads to a lot of fear. And the city's job was to communicate as clearly and as consistently as possible. Data SF's work was absolutely essential to this. Their team built out our dashboard showing changes in COVID case rates, PPE distribution, and vaccination rates. They also helped us understand the racial and geographical disparities of how COVID-19 was affecting our communities. For example, early on, we heard about disproportional impacts in our Latino community, and the data we collected and analyzed backed this up. This helped us quickly focus on our efforts and dedicate resources and energy to this community. It helped us build partnerships with leaders and community organizations on the ground. And thanks to this work and those partnerships, here in San Francisco, over 70% of the Latino community has been vaccinated. A lot of people deserve credit for that, but having the data really helped us make the right decisions and dedicate the resources where they were needed the most. We want to build upon this success and that we know has come out of this pandemic. By using these digital tools and data, we hope to reach every community, understand their needs, and make sure that we aren't just saying we're giving resources, but we're making a real difference in those communities.
It is so inspiring, and it, maybe just as a quick follow-up question, but when the crisis was unfolding in San Francisco, I think was the first major city to announce a real lockdown. You gravitated towards that capacity, towards that digital service team, towards that data team, because they were feeding you the content that you needed to engage your residents. How do you think this grant can help you continue to marry the innovation, data, and digital resources within your city government with your highest priority issues moving forward?
Well, part of the challenge and why we're really excited to receive this grant is because, yes, the resources were dedicated. We had to move fast. We had to act quickly. We had to work with not just city agencies, but nonprofit agencies. We had to move a lot of money. But the missing component in some of this work is the accountability piece. So how do we make sure, how do we measure success? We measure success, yes, we have the data, and that's very helpful to see the change. But how do we actually see the dollars that we invest have an impact? And how do we know when we need to make appropriate changes to divert resources to one program versus another? So the accountability part needs to be fleshed out a lot more. And I'm excited about this grant because this is one of the things that I wanted to do most. Every dollar matters to me. And I want to make sure that when we pay for something or we invest in something, it's having a tremendous impact. And think about it. If we're paying one program and it costs $10,000 a person to provide the service, and another program, it's $5,000 per person, where's the discrepancy there? How do we deal with accountability so that we can stretch those dollars and serve more people? And this grant will be an incredible opportunity in getting us there. So we're really excited about it.
It's very exciting. Now let me turn to Mayor Vogager Eggertsen from Reykjavik, Iceland. Great to see you. Mayor, I think you have committed to digitizing 100% of city services in your city, which is an incredibly ambitious goal. Tell us a little bit about your priority agenda and maybe give us if you could flash forward 3 years and tell us how Reykjavik municipality works better for citizens, better for employees because of this transformation. What's that going to look like?
Well, we've had this focus on digital transformation, but we have kind of boosted our efforts now as a part of our strategy of how to grow out of the current situation after COVID. We call it the Green Plan. We are focusing on all 3 aspects of sustainability, really, the economic, the environment, and society. And digital transformation cuts through all of these fields. In short, to me, it's about making the citizens' life easier, making it easier to do business in Reykjavik, but we can get other benefits from it, like less traffic. If you can do things just electronically from your home whenever suits you, and having both talked to the people of Reykjavik and people doing business, we know that even when we ask people that are seeking welfare service, just an open question, by what means do you want to seek your services? 73% say through digital channels. So I think we have the residents with us in this. And if I look kind of some years ahead, I really want this thing to be forgotten, as we have forgotten why the water comes out of our taps or electricity out of our walls. Everything that works, we tend to forget. But if there will be a great success story on how we work with these 5 other great cities, exciting cities, and Bloomberg, and the people in the city of doing this right, because, I mean, from history, we know of a lot of kind of bold projects that had immense cost and didn't deliver what we needed. So we feel also very humble in front of this task and want to learn from other people, share what we know, because we have the infrastructure ready. We have a lot of good people, but to be frank, we want to do this quite fast and be as efficient and good at it as we can. And so I'm very thankful to be on board in this program, and we'll do our utmost and our best.
Well, it was obvious to us. You are probably, I think by population, you are the smallest city in this group, but your ambitions are extraordinary, and I think we'll all have a lot to learn from you. So thank you for being here. Finally, let's hear from Bogota Mayor Claudia Lopez Hernandez. Buenos dias, happy Pride, Mayor. Great to see you. So you intend to build a new social and environmental contract for the 21st century, focused on ensuring equity for your most vulnerable residents. And you've identified digital innovation as a huge enabler for getting you there. Can you tell us a little bit more about your vision and where the city is headed? You're on mute.
Hi, Jim. It's a great pleasure. It's a great pleasure to be with Mayor in this initiative. Very excited and grateful for the community and this mission and support for our IT team in Bogota. IT and digital inclusion means economic and social generation, means we are so excited to have this support, this global support with experts, with funds, to improve the digital inclusion, the digital abilities, particularly youth and women, and also for our public servants. We created recently, as you know, and probably is one of the reasons that you chose us, is not only for our enthusiasm, for our great team, IT team led by Felipe Guzman here in Bogota, but also because we created AGATA, the Data Analytics Agency of Bogota, and the Public Innovation Lab of Bogota. With these two institutional tools, we're going to train our public servants in these digital capabilities and analytical capabilities to take advantage of all the IT tools to improve transparency and accountability in Bogota's open government, which is one of the first things. If we want to have probably the only thing, important thing in this world of politics and representation is legitimacy. And legitimacy is built by trust. And trust is built by transparency and an open government. Then every citizen can know what we are doing with their money, with their taxes, how are we invested, and they can select, choose, participate, and execute projects that they propose themselves at their neighborhood level. The second thing, of course, is to take advantage of these, new industries, new technologies, new abilities of the 21st century for at least 4 issues that are critical for us. As you know, Bogota is famous in the world for traffic jam, but we're building the subway system, we're building the largest cycloway network for biking in our city. We're improving pedestrian spaces, we're improving infrastructure, electrification of transportation, but we need to take advantage of IT and digital tools to create the intelligent transportation system and the traffic management center so that we can provide better information, services, and anticipation to provide a better transportation service in our city. The second thing that we intend to use your support and generosity is to offer credit lines, economic inclusion, particularly for small informal businesses in our cities. We're not gonna have economic sustainability and inclusion in our city if half of the business of unemployment in Latin America and in Bogota is informal. It's out of the formal opportunities. It's outside of the credit formal opportunities. So we're gonna create an app in which any citizen and a small business can pay us the utilities of the services, some of the services that we provide them with. Have some discount for paying through these digital applications. And in addition to that, get small loans, direct, easy, and support their businesses to have more credit, have more opportunities, and of course, also digital abilities. The third thing we're so incredibly excited to use your support is for the Women District Care of Bogota. That's one of the things that make Bogota very distinctive. In fact, this week we were recognized as one of the well-being cities of the world, precisely to build this care system to relieve women in our city and in our society of the overburden of unpaid care work that they have to do, that prevent them to have time to rest, to have time to educate themselves, to have time to find new job opportunities. So the district care system will provide them with time, education, and labor opportunities, but the IT team will provide them with information to focus these services to the women more in poor, in need, in our society, to focus the best way possible our resources to support them. So this will bring digital opportunities for public servants, digital formation and opportunities for small businesses, digital opportunities for youth people who are claiming in the streets that they need to have these kind of opportunities. So really, thank you so much to you, Jim, to all the team, to Bloomberg for believing in our team, believing in our city, in our country. We're having a hard time, social crisis, economic crisis, the pandemic challenge, but I'm sure we're gonna be able to provide the information, the tools, the services that help us not only to move through this crisis, but to be better citizens, to have better services, more transparency, and more abilities and better abilities for this 21st century. So thank you so much to you all.
It's, of course, our pleasure, and to note the Bogota idea around shifting the care burden, supporting caregivers, training women in economic development opportunities, and training men to do more of the shouldering of care work is a Mayor's Challenge finalist idea, which is very exciting. So we're almost out of time here. So let me just wrap up with a few thoughts. First of all, thank you all. We are incredibly excited to work with all of you. A huge thanks to all of the teams behind these mayors. Their work is so impressive and so inspiring, and we are very excited to partner with all of them. Thanks to all of the city innovators that have joined the call. Thanks to the government innovation team at Bloomberg Philanthropies, and also our partners, the digital practice at Bloomberg Associates, one of our key partners here. Before I close, I want to underscore one final point, that a big important aspect of our work with these 6 cities will be to document lessons learned and insights. And as you could hear today, these mayors all have very different perspectives, but also so many interesting similarities and overlaps. And we'll be documenting lessons learned, sharing them, exchanging them between cities, and then elevating them so that other cities around the globe can learn from all of you. And that's really gets to the heart of what we're trying to do with the Bloomberg Cities Network. So I want to thank everyone. I want to give another thanks to Michael Bloomberg, who has enabled all of this to happen and who continues to be the #1 champion of funding government innovation that any philanthropy has. And with that, thank you very much. We look forward to working with all of you. Everyone have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.